Hey guys, Once a GP here, and today I'm going to be talking about my trip to Kentucky Kingdom this past August 2020, and so let's just get right into it. I'm going to kind of go through the good and the bad and the in-between to give you the full perspective on what I went through at Kentucky Kingdom. So immediately right before I even got there, it was kind of difficult to find the spot in because we're going through the back entrance as opposed to the normal standard gate that the GP would go through or that you would go through on any other day. This is kind of a back entrance, and it being my first time in Kentucky, let alone to Kentucky Kingdom, it was kind of difficult to find my way, and the GPS definitely took me to the wrong spot. And when I got there, I saw a lot more people in line than I expected. I knew it was a Coaster Enthusiast event, and enthusiasts would be there, but it's not exactly Cedar Point, so expecting Kentucky Kingdom to be as packed as Cedar Point on Coaster Mania Day is kind of unreasonable, but it was pretty close to that, and I saw a bunch of people that you see on YouTube already, people recording, all that, and there were quite a lot of people there. Building right off that, this is going to be my first and probably only complaint that I have with Kentucky Kingdom, or Keys to the Kingdom, I guess, is the social distancing and the mask requirement seemed pretty inconsistent, if there at all. And what I mean by that is, about 75% of the people that were there for Keys of the Kingdom had on a mask at all times, and which I thought was very weird because on the social media it said that masks were required, so I thought that was a bit odd. But once the GP came in, it seemed about closer to 40% of everybody was wearing a mask. So it seems like there was no, enforcement of that at all. Going off of that, the social distancing was fine when you were not around anybody. But when you were actually waiting for a ride or doing anything within the park, it was basically non-existent. Now, I personally understand that going to these parks during a pandemic such as the one that we're in now is a privilege more than anything else. This isn't a right, and the parks and the government has every right to take it away from us if we're not adhering to these guidelines. So I was just surprised to see that Kentucky Kingdom wasn't doing more to enforce it. Not to say that they weren't doing anything at all. All the staff was wearing masks, and every once in a while I would hear someone tell someone else to put on a mask, but I felt like there could have been a little bit more done. Now, once we got to the front of the line, we were given our shirts, our dessert vouchers, and our access passes to the behind-the-scenes events, as well as our wristbands, so people know that we're a part of Keys to the Kingdom. After getting through all that, we were then headed to the kind of picnic area where we were able to get breakfast, and there was quite a bit of breakfast, more snacks than anything. There were bagels, there were donuts, there was orange juice and water, so it was pretty varied and it was very nice. After about 30 to 45 minutes of waiting in the picnic grove area for everyone to get settled in, we were then given a speech and introduced to the main Kentucky Kingdom staff, their social media and the planners and everything like that, and told what was going to go on throughout the day. They basically told us that they were going to text us throughout the day to let us know of events that are coming up, and then they basically dismissed us to Kentucky Flyer and to Lightning Run. I had originally thought, because Lightning Run is the better ride in most people's eyes, that most people would go to Lightning Run, so I headed straight over to Kentucky Flyer, forgetting that it is a new ride. So it was about 50-50 split on who went to Kentucky Flyer, who went to Lightning Run. So I went straight to Kentucky Flyer, and I got a good ride on the back. And then I went straight to Lightning Run, which, because it's my first time at the park, I didn't even realize it was separated by a kind of road and connected by a bridge and maybe a path over there. But it was very different for me. I'm used to going to Kings Island and Cedar Point, where it's all one big blob, more or less, but Kentucky Kingdom is a little bit different in that. They're also a smaller park, but I felt like it took me just as long to get across the park as it did Cedar Point or Kings Island, just because of the separation. So we immediately went to Lightning Run after Kentucky Flyer, and we waited in line. We talked to a couple really cool enthusiasts that talked about going to different parks across the world, stuff like that, and just was a really cool conversation. And then we got on Lightning Run, and it was pretty fun. Now I got a back row ride on, and that first ride was very comparable to Maverick, at least in the way it flung me after the first drop. It was a very fun ride, definitely my favorite ride in the park, off of that one ride alone. I did re-ride everything, but I tried to switch up my seatings for the second ride on everything. Now, after our ride on Lightning Run, the GP were let in, and so we made it our goal to get to Thunder Run. Now, playing into the a little bit confusing time we had getting into the park, finding our way to Thunder Run took us about 20 minutes because we had no idea where we were going. We ended up circling the wave pool area about 2 times, and it was just very confusing, and I don't know if everybody has a problem with this. I've heard that other people don't, but I definitely did, and this happened a few times throughout the day when trying to find other rides. Eventually, we did make it to Thunder Run, and we got a back row ride on it. I hated it. And the reason I hated it is because I didn't get stapled very much. It was actually pretty loose, and then as soon as the first drop was over, I was stapled more than I've ever been by any ride op. The ride stapled me so much I could barely feel my thighs after that. So it was pretty bad. I didn't enjoy it. So that was Thunder Run. So that was me and my girlfriend's 49th credit. So we had our 50th credit. So our options were either roller skater, storm chaser, or T3. So obviously we went to T3 next. Before we went to T3 though, there was a little YouTuber panel, and there was a speech by the CEO, and they showed off a bunch of super amazing and very well done fan art for a bunch of the Kentucky Kingdom rides, and it was a very fun experience, and it's something I never really thought could ever happen, a panel of roller coaster YouTubers. How bizarre does that sound? But it happened, and I was super excited, and I couldn't have been happier watching it. If anything, the line for T3 was worse than the actual ride itself. I prefer T3 over Thunder Run. That might be blasphemy, but that's just how I felt. After I was stapled on Thunder Run, T3 was fine. The restraints were fine. It was a little rough, but it wasn't anything, that I don't feel on something like Banshee or Beast or something like that. Those are both okay rides, and I thought the same of T3. After that, we then headed to the picnic area again, and we had lunch. The burgers were actually pretty good. The sauce was very good, and there was some mac and cheese and whatnot. So they filled us up pretty freaking well. Now, after lunch, we ended up going to Storm Chaser, and Storm Chaser was super fun. We got a backseat ride on that as well, and it was very fun. It wasn't my favorite RMC, and it wasn't even my favorite ride in the park, but it was my girlfriend's favorite ride in the park, and I still couldn't have had any more fun on it. It was super great, and the barrel roll drop, it was intense. It was crazy, and for such a small ride, you don't think it would pack that much, but it did. It packed quite a bit. Immediately after that, we then went to ride roller skater just for the credits. We got a back, not that it matters, but we got a back row ride on that, and it was fine. I'm surprised we both fit in the car. It was actually very, intense for a kiddie coaster. I mean, it kind of goes in throughout itself, so it was very surprising for a kiddie coaster. After that, we went to the behind the scenes tour of Thunder Run and Storm Chaser, and we got some pretty good pictures, some pretty good slow-mo videos, stuff like that. It was very cool to see different angles of stuff that people don't normally see. After that, me and my girlfriend decided to go on the Larson Loop. It was my first ever one, and we were right there, first in line, and then some girl on the ride threw up basically all over herself, and she was saying as the ride was going on, I'm gonna throw up, and people say that, but they don't throw up, but this girl threw up a lot, and my girlfriend felt uncomfortable, so we didn't end up riding it, which is fine. I just think that's a super funny story. So after that, we did end up waiting in line for the canyon ride and the water rapids ride, whatever you want to call it. It was super fun. I never seem to get wet on those, and that's the only reason I go on them, is to get wet, but I didn't. We then wrongly assumed that the park closed at 7 for some reason. I think it ended up closing at 8 that night, but we thought it closed at 7, and because Lightning Run wasn't an extended ride time ride, to us, it was either ride Lightning Run one more time or go to the T4 reveal. And so we got off the Rapids ride, and we saw the entire like giant group of people waiting for the T4 reveal, and we said nope and booked it to Lightning Run. We bought 2 nano coasters before we rode it, and then we rode Lightning Run again. We got a front row ride, and it was pretty fun. And then it got to 7 o'clock, and we were wondering why there were so many people in line. I ended up checking the schedule. It closes at 8, so that was my bad. Or maybe it was 6 and 7. Either way, we were off by an hour, so we could have gone to that and still rerode Lightning Run. But it was fine. Everything worked out. We then ended up going to dinner after that, and dinner was fine. It was actually more than fine. It was amazing. It was build your own. It was like taco salad or taco or something like that. And it was super, super good. Put a bunch of spicy stuff in it. It was, for how, inexpensive tickets were. They're like normal Cedar Point price tickets, if not cheaper than that. And you don't have to be, and this is for all day access plus ERT. You don't have to be part of a coaster club. And they provide you free meals all day, and they give you free dessert and backstage access to everything, and drinks are free anyways. This was a super, super good investment. I mean, I feel like I got it paid for 10 times over in experience alone, so I was super happy with how all that turned out. So then we got it turned over to the extended ride time and some beach party fun. My girlfriend and I rode we did the lazy river, and we did the super straight drop, the deep dive, and that was scary as heck. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say. So then we ended up, we watched some of the beer pong and everything. It was fine. It was kind of funny for a little bit, and then we went to re-ride. We took some videos of stuff, and then we went to re-ride Thunder Run in the front row, and Storm Chaser in the front row. Opposite orders, but you get the gist. So we got everything ridden twice except for T3 and Roller Skater, and everything was either a back row or a front row ride, which was pretty impressive, honestly. And we didn't ask for any of that, so that was pretty cool. We got free dessert. It was pretty good. It was like this crumbly strawberry cake stuff. It was pretty good. The frosting was the best part of that. And it was super fun experience. The only complaint besides the coronavirus distancing and mask mandates and everything, the only complaint I have was I think the park needs a little bit more lights on their coasters. Kind of how especially Cedar Point's really good at this, having lights on the coaster, so the skyline even at night looks amazing, because it is a pretty park, and just driving right next to it is super fun in and of itself. But that's my experience. That was my experience at Kentucky Kingdom. Keys to the Kingdom on August 30th of 2020. I got some cool pictures with some of the people. I took some good footage and some pictures, and I also have a trip report. I'll link that in the description below. It's to my Reddit post. It goes a little bit more in detail on how I felt about some of the coasters, so I don't have to do a whole separate video review for all that. It's all kind of there, but I can definitely post some more of my pictures if that's something you guys are interested in. And I'll definitely post some of my footage just on its own, so that way everything's kind of here. So that's it. If you guys have any specific questions or general questions or any questions, feel free to put it in the comments. I'll definitely respond. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.